Welcome back to the Mystic Media channel. I'm your host, Rubina Rastafari, aka the Realist Astrologer, and I've been wanting to do a video reading on Drea Kelly for quite a while, so I wanted to do it live, but since it's kind of late and I'm kind of tired, I'm just going to record it. But I'm doing this to basically show that Drea Kelly is not a victim in this R. Kelly madness like she tries to portray on TV and in the interviews and stuff like that. And when I seen her on one of the interviews, I forgot, maybe it was The View or The Talk or one of those shows, she just came across as very phony. Now, I remember she was on that reality show a few years ago, but I forgot what show it was on. But let me pull up Wikipedia so I can find out what show it was, because I forget, something about housewives or something like that. But she was on that one talk show and she was just talking about how R. Kelly was abusive and how he would force her to do stuff. And one time she was like hogtied for hours or whatever like that. Let me just read a little bit about her background. Andrea Danielle Kelly, born January 29th, 1974, also known as Drea, is an American choreographer, dancer, and actress. Drea made her television public debut in 2012 for the VH1 reality series Hollywood Exes. That's what it was called. I really didn't watch it like too much. I might have seen a couple of the episodes, and I remember not liking her, just not liking her vibe and her on-screen persona when I saw a few of those episodes. And it says, and by later starring in her first featured film, Before I Do. Personal life and background. Andrea Danielle Lee was born in Chicago, Illinois on January 29th, 1974. They have January 28th down here, but January 29th up here, that must be a typo, because I looked at another site and it said January 29th. And she's more of a 29 than a 28, in my opinion. Now, in 1996, Drea, then aged 22, married singer-songwriter R. Kelly in Colorado. Prior to their marriage, Drea served as a backup dancer for Kelly. Together, Drea and Kelly have 3 children, Joanne, Jay, and Robert. Drea changed her last name from Lee to Kelly. Drea filed a restraining order against Kelly in September 2005 after he assaulted her when she told him she wanted a divorce. She filed for divorce in 2006. It was finalized in 2009. In 2014, Drea married 36-year-old barber and R&B singer Brian McKee, whom she divorced after just 2 months of marriage. Not surprised with what I see in her chart. After allegations surfaced that he was having an affair. Later that year, her child, previously known as Jaya, announced on Instagram that he is a transgender man and was changing his name to Jay. In 2018, Drea revealed on The View that R. Kelly emotionally and physically abused her throughout her marriage, so it was on The View. She stated the abuse became so severe that she contemplated suicide. Drea detailed an incident where Kelly assaulted her in the back of his Hummer, and as a result, she suffers from PTSD. Another time, Kelly hog-tied her in bed and fell asleep while she was still tied. She stated her motive for speaking out many years after their divorce is to help other victims of domestic violence. It's about saving lives. That's what she said. Now, let's get into her chart. So this video ain't going to be that long because her chart is very straightforward. Now, I don't know what time she was born, but there's still many factors in her chart that points to who she is in terms of her character and all. And I'm going to pull a tarot card to just represent her character. Now, her being born on the 29th, that is one of the most challenging dates to be born on, and that can produce situations that will put a person under a lot of pressure. So high pressure situations. Love triangles is a common manifestation of 29. Also, interference from third parties. 29 can just be quite messy. It could bring challenges with home, family, all that type of stuff. Now, her life path number is a 6, and that points to her being a dancer, choreographer, but it also means that she is very much about getting that money. Her sun in Aquarius is conjoined to Venus in Aquarius, and that reinforces that 6 life path number, where she's a dancer, also to deal with where she's marrying for money, marrying for convenience, because that's that Aquarius influence, and that can represent her attraction to women. So it has been said that, or I'll say it's been rumored that she is attracted to women. She is bisexual, and that's very evident when I look at her chart. Now, her sun is in parallel aspect to the fixed star Merzam, and that right there is about her sharing her story with the media, also her being on that reality show, Hollywood Exes. Her Venus is conjoined to Juno, and that can represent a marriage that is more so a business arrangement, because Juno is in Capricorn at the 27th degree. Now, usually I wouldn't count that aspect because it's 3 degrees away, but in Andrea Kelly's situation, I'm counting it because of the type of life that she leads. So with that, I'm looking at a marriage being more so of a business arrangement, and she was his choreographer. And also that could deal with her being very concerned about her reputation. And because it's at the 27th degree Juno, that could deal with her keeping secret in a marriage, in a relationship. Now, her Venus is at 0 degrees Aquarius, and it's retrograde. And Venus retrograde can deal with where you have a hidden agenda in terms of relationships. Also, her Black Moon Lilith is at the 18th degree of Capricorn, and that can make her very ruthless in terms of getting money, in terms of business, and it can mean that she has a shady reputation, or where her reputation could become tarnished, which it is to some degree, because a lot of people are really like giving her that side eye about her involvement in all this situation. And that 18th degree can deal with hypersexuality. It could, especially the 18th degree of Capricorn, that can make somebody like really into that smutty type of sex. She could be into BSDM. She could be a sadist, a masochist. She could be, and that makes me think of her being hogtied, which I'm going to get into in a minute. Her Venus is squared by Uranus, so that could deal with her being in a loveless marriage or an unconventional marriage or relationship. So she was with R. Kelly, and R. Kelly, you know, he was dealing with all these women at the same time. And also with her most recent marriage, that only lasted, 2 months, I think it said. So Venus square Uranus can be very hard on relationships. It will lead to sudden breakups, separations. It almost always leads to divorce. And this could deal with her having problems with women as well. She could be a fake friend. And I'm also seeing that as funny money. So she could be getting money in ways that, you know, aren't really above board. Also, this could deal with her being ostracized when she was younger. Also, that points to a disruption in her money supply. So she had the child support court battle with R. Kelly. Venus square Uranus can make her a turncoat, can cause her to be disloyal, cold, and unaffectionate. Now, her Venus is also in quincunx to Saturn and her South Node. So let me just talk about Saturn and the South Node. So her South Node is at the 26th degree of Gemini, and that 26th degree is partnerships, but usually partnerships that are rooted in karmic debt, partnerships that are loveless, where there's either the whole theme of opportunism or exploitation, or where it is basically like a business arrangement. If you try to have a relationship based upon love with that 26, it's going to be very hard. It can deal with where you're in a relationship, but you're basically living separate lives, or where you only come together for business purposes, financial security, all that stuff. Now, so that 26 degree South Node Gemini is dealing with her being in that marriage with R. Kelly and her going to the media about the struggles in her marriage, you know, the abuse, all that type of stuff, because Gemini rules the media. So with that South Node in Gemini conjoined to Saturn is at the what? Let me see. Saturn is at the 28th degree. I always say that 28 is like, that's that free ride. That's that, I'm going to hitch on to this person's coattails and ride their train to success. Or I'm going to benefit from the success of others. Also, that 28 deals with children. Now, Saturn conjoined to her South Node in Gemini. I see that as she's coming from a past life where she could have been a masochist or maybe even a sadist. She could have been subjected to torture in a past life, or she could have been one that was the torturer. That South Node in Gemini alone can make someone have very loose morals or be totally immoral. Not saying all Gemini South Nodes, but especially if you have Saturn conjoined to the South Node in Gemini, that's almost like you could be devilish. Well, you definitely could be devilish with that. You could be straight up wicked, dark-sided. Your mind could be leaning on the dark end. You could be very shrewd, very calculating. Also engaging in duplicity in order to become successful or in order to preserve your reputation. Also, that South Node Gemini makes her very flexible. When you add Saturn into the mix, it's like she can, contort her body and make it seem like she don't have any bones or whatever like that. And I've seen a little clip of her dancing, and she was able to like pull her leg all the way back, and so she is sort of like a contortionist, which makes me think of her being hogtied. So I'm thinking, and I said this during the last live stream I did when I was in the kitchen. I was saying that I wouldn't be surprised if she wanted to be hogtied, because trust and believe, there are women that like that type of kink. There are women that get off on being restrained, being tied up with these fancy type of knots and ropes and stuff. That really came from like Japanese. I forget what it's called, where you get all tied up. Somebody let me know in the comment section. But yes, that's a really type of kink where you get tied up, maybe hog-tied, or you're in these restraints and you can't get out and all this type of stuff. I see her being into that sort of thing. Now, when you add Venus into the mix, Venus is in quincunx to Saturn and Gemini, South Node in Gemini, and that right there can represent her being in restraints, and that being part of her kink and her, not being able to get out, because that quincunx can act as entanglement. I always say that's an aspect of entanglement. So this could be an aspect of literal entanglement where she gets into these, positions and stuff, and she gets off on it. Like, that's her kink. And maybe R. Kelly really did fall asleep while she was hog-tied, so maybe it got to be a bit too much that day or whatever like that. Also, that Gemini South Node conjoined to Saturn, that could deal with where, in the marriage with R. Kelly, and I should do a part 2 where I do their synastry, but I don't got time right now. But when in that marriage with R. Kelly, she was obviously the brains of the operation, because as we know, R. Kelly is very slow. And Gemini South Nodes can be very sharp. They could be clever. They could be slick. Very intelligent. Very, have the street smarts and all that type of stuff. So I'm sure she was the one handling most of the correspondences and stuff like that. Text messages, all that type of stuff. So with Saturn conjoined to the South Node, that could deal with her managing his affairs, especially in terms of correspondence, writing, all that type of stuff. But it can also deal with her covering her tracks very well. Like I said, that Gemini South Node can make her very clever, can make her engage in duplicity. And then when you add Venus into the mix, that could deal with her duping women, but it can also deal with her having a network of women, because Venus is in Aquarius, that Aquarius influences the network, having or creating a network of women that can be at R. Kelly's disposal. Again, this is allegations on my part. I'm speculating, but what I'm seeing in her chart could very well point to this. I'm also seeing where this Saturn conjoined to her South Node means that she's coming from a past life of feeling very inferior, and that has been carried over into this current lifetime. And I have to admit, she's not the most attractive female. So if she's in the industry and she's been in the industry all her life because of her parents. So if she's in the industry, and she's, up against these other women and stuff like that, I could see her feeling inferior. I can also see her having a problem with her complexion because of what I see in her chart. That Venus in Aquarius, quincunx Saturn, and Gemini, conjoined to the South Node in Gemini. And she could have been bullied growing up, or she could have been ostracized or whatever, or she could have been called ugly and stuff. And some people, if they've been abused when they were young and stuff, some people will just transfer that onto their lovers and get with a person that's going to verbally abuse them and whatever. So I see her being primed to be verbally abused, but her basically being like, that's what I'm used to, that's what I know, and her being okay with it. Her maybe even getting off on it, getting off on being verbally abused, maybe getting off on being spit on and stuff like that, maybe being slapped. But, sometimes situations get too real, and maybe when they were arguing and stuff, R. Kelly would really, put his hands on her or whatever like that. But that's why, there's a fine line between getting into that type of kink, because, when does it become abuse? Now, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, but again, going back to that Saturn conjoined to the South Node, again, that could deal with her being used to, like, being low down and dirty and filthy. Like, that's what she's used to. And so it was nothing for her to get with R. Kelly. And again, that Gemini South Node could deal with her having very loose morals, her rationalizing inappropriate behavior or rationalizing behavior just simply so she could be successful in life. Now her sun is squared by Mars, and her sun is in Aquarius, Mars is in Taurus. So I often see that sun square Mars is where, a person's actions are in conflict with their image, or a person's true identity is in conflict with the image that they are portraying. And I see that with Andrea. Like, Drea is claiming to be this, activist for abused women. That would be the sun in Aquarius. But with that Mars and Taurus, she's about that money, and she's willing to conform to a man's standards, i.e. R. Kelly, in order to get that money. So in that respect, she is liable to compromise her integrity, basically, portraying a false image because of that square. Also, that could deal with her fighting for child support, and that can represent an abnormal relationship with a man. And also, that could deal with her having no problem throwing R. Kelly under the bus to protect herself. You can also look at that sun square Mars when you're just dealing with the husband in particular, where a husband needs more sex than you could provide. And she had two husbands like that, R. Kelly and this most recent one, because she said that he was cheating. Her moon is conjoined to Chiron, but I don't know what time she was born, so I don't know how close that conjunction is, but I'm thinking it's rather close. And that could deal with her being hypersexual, also where she inflicts wounds upon women. And there was this story that came out that said that she tried to hit a woman with a baseball bat, or she did hit one of R. Kelly's females with a baseball bat or something like that. So moon conjoined to Chiron and Aries can make her violent. And it could deal with a strange living situation, an abnormal, home life. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. So let me just because I missed some of these notes. So let me just reinforce again, because the whole underlying issue is South Node in Gemini conjoined to Saturn. So again, just to reiterate, because I'm looking at the notes that I took. So she's used to being exploited and treated like dirt. Serious inferiority complex, starting with siblings or relatives, perhaps because of that Gemini influence. Perhaps being passed around to different older men when she was younger because of that Saturn influence. Smut, licentiousness, immorality. It could also cause her to be conniving, crafty, wicked, two-faced, especially when money is involved. And I'm wondering if there was a situation going on in the early part of her life involving incest. And it could have been, an older relative because of that Saturn influence. And she does have Mercury at the 22nd degree of Aquarius, and it's incestually square to Pluto, and that could deal with an ancestral relationship or where she was sexually abused by a relative, like an uncle or aunt. That 22nd degree, I did speculate that that could be an ancestral degree. She also has her Mercury conjoined to Jupiter in Aquarius, and that could deal with her being part of an extensive network, her having a lot of connections, and this could deal with her being absolved of wrongdoing. So she might not have to face any type of trial or anything like that connected with R. Kelly, because it does look like she can cover her tracks very well, and it looks like she has some connections. Now, her Mercury is also in trine to Saturn in the South Node in Gemini, and that could deal with her being put in charge, again, of R. Kelly's affairs, being the mastermind, and again, being good at covering her tracks, but it also deals with the media attention that she is receiving as a result of her being R. Kelly's ex-wife. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think in the comments section. The next time I go live, I probably will discuss R. Kelly and Drea Kelly's synastry, because it's easier to do it live sometimes than having to do it, via recording, and then I might have to re-record it because I make a mistake or whatever like that. I don't even know if I'm going to be uploading this version or whatever, because sometimes I'll listen to the replay and I'll be like, I don't like the way that's down or whatever. But anyway, if you would like a reading, you could go to my website at rabina.com. I'm going to leave the link in the description section. Stay tuned for more videos. I probably will be going live again soon, maybe on Friday or Saturday, so stay tuned. I rarely post a notification because the way my life is, things always come up, so I don't want to promise that I'm going to go live and then turn around and have to cancel and all that type of stuff. So a lot of times I just be winging it. So again, if you like a reading, go to my website, rabina.com, and I will be back with more readings. Peace and many blessings.